Hey, today we're going to be taking a look at how strong Galarian Weezing here can do in the Fantasy Cup Ultra League Edition. And looking at its typing and moveset, it looks incredibly strong. Fairy Wind, Overheat, and Play Rough. And thinking about this meta, having Steel, Fairy, and Dragon type Pokemon, this is the perfect moveset for coverage against the Fantasy Cup. Now today's team is going to have a double Steel backline, Registeel and Berserker. And the Berserker is going to be the safe swap with Shadow Claw, Play Rough, and Close Combat. Another very solid Pokemon with fantastic coverage against this meta. Alright, getting into the first battle, huge shout out to Ashifs for sharing these battles with us, and let's go ahead and dive right in. We have Galarian Weezing versus Registeel on the lead. So having Overheat right here is going to be very advantageous, but they decide to swap out into the Berserker, and we will see a counter swap now into Tapu Fini, hoping to catch the potential close combat. But thankfully, Berserker here does have Play Rough, which is going to do a lot of neutral damage. You think about the Shadow Claw damage as well adding up. This is going to be very close, and it's going to come down to who wants to shield in the mid game to potentially flip. But they're going to go ahead and let the Surf go through and look to go for another Play Rough, hoping to get a shield from the opponent. Let's see how this plays out. They decide to let it go. Okay, so Berserker is going to completely flip the mid game right here. And if we see, oh, we're going to see a Giratina Altered come in actually. They can't make it to the Play Rough in time, so they're going to be forced to throw the Close Combat just to do any extra chip damage, which that little bit might just add up. Now, they're going to go ahead and come in with the Weezing right here and probably look to no-shield some of these charge moves as they won't do too much damage. And this is what's deadly about the Weezing is the access to Overheat for those Steel type Pokemon, as they're going to go ahead and shield the Zap Cannon. They do get the attack drop, but Overheat is still going to do a lot of damage. Now this game isn't over. They still have Registeel in the back on their own line, and that still does a good amount. They're going to go ahead and counter swap now into their own Registeel, and this is what's cool about the Registeel in the Ultra League. Yes, they are XL, but they can survive Focus Blast. But looking at how much damage that did, the Focus Blast here from this Registeel should be enough to KO the shiny one. So let's see if they decide to give up their final shield, and they do. All right, this is looking to be a Galarian Weezing potential sweep. There is still one shield on the opponent's side. So Registeel is going to go ahead and stop that one, and now we do see a counter swap back into Giratina Altered. And this is what's cool about the Ultra League, is there is so much bulk here that you can actually dance around your team. You're not necessarily locked in for the 60 seconds and then go down because you just don't have enough health. In this case, they're able to survive long enough to survive the Shadow Sneak and counter swap back into Weezing. So this is a beautiful dance with these final two Pokemon, and ultimately why I think, hot opinion right here, but I think Ultra League might be the better meta compared to Great League because of how versatile these Pokemon can dance around. Not everything gets one shot, right? So they're going to go ahead and go for the Play Rough and take out the Giratina Altered, and they decide to surrender because Weezing would have gotten to an Overheat and then Focus Blast from Registeel. Good first game. All right, moving into the next one. We have Weezing versus Giratina Origin this time. So very positive lead matchup as they are doing super effective damage, but Giratina Origin cannot be slept on. It can do so much damage with Shadow Claw and Shadow Ball, so it has to be respected. So they're going to go ahead and shield, and it was just an Ominous Wind shield bait, unfortunately, but now they can fire back here with Play Rough, and this might just be enough to one-shot, as Giratina Origin is more on the attack heavy on its stats compared to Giratina Altered. Now here comes another charge move. This is where it's like, do you just let it go? Is it the Shadow Ball? They do let it go. It was the Shadow Ball, but they still survive and are able to get off the Play Rough right here, which might force shield number 2. And this is where, and they do get it, this is where Berserker really starts to shine, as Shadow Claw here is going to be doing super effective damage. They could potentially fully farm down if they successfully shield a Shadow Ball right here. They're going to go ahead and shield. It is a Shadow Ball. Now, this might be a full farm round. No, the opponent decides to swap into Tapu Fini, so they're going to bank that energy on Berserker, which is going to come in handy later on, and look to come in with Registeel, as this matchup is very positive thanks to Zap Cannon, only taking neutral damage from Water Gun and Surf. So they're going to go ahead and throw the Zap Cannon here. This might just do enough damage to one-shot the Tapu Fini. No, barely not enough. They do get the attack drop, though, and they can fully farm down with Lock On, which is going to help out on the other side, as that Giratina Origin is still quite healthy and has a good amount of energy. So hopefully they can get to the Zap Cannon to apply some pressure. And even though it's resisted... Oh, actually, we see a Genesect come in. So they're going to go ahead and go for the Zap Cannon here for a lot of neutral damage. It's going to be up to Berserker to close this game out. Switch Clock is back up. They're not swapping out just yet. The opponent is loading up on energy. They counter swap and they go for the play rough right away into the Giratina Origin. This is going to be taking it out. Boom! And now let's see if Genesect can close this game. I don't think it's going to be able to. It gets to the charge move, and unless this is the Technoblast Fire. No, it's Technoblast. Oh, it still did enough! Which Technoblast was that? That didn't show resisted. I thought that was Ice, and if it's Steel typing, it would have been resisted. But no! It looks like they're going to lose Magnet Bomb. No! Registeel hangs on with 1 HP and a Dream. Gonna be booming the Genesect. Boom! Takes it out. Good game. That was... Okay. I thought they were going to survive that Technoblast and go for the close combat to close it out, but that was an interesting change of events. All right, we got Giratina Altered now on the lead, so again, very positive right here thanks to Fairy Wind and Play Rough. And we do see them decide to throw the first charge move. Now, these are typically going to be Shadow Sneaks or Ancient Powers as they do neutral damage. And Shadow Sneak really helps out against Pokemon that you may see like Metagross, potentially, or Solgaleo, which is pretty popular as well. And now we'll see if they decide to give up another shield here against Giratina Altered. No, they're going to let it go through. They're going to have to get to another Play Rough, and now this is where things get very dicey. Can the Galarian Weezing survive long enough to get to another charge move? No, they're going to counter swap now into Berserker to farm down, and in comes an Escavalier. And this is actually a unique situation here where Berserker can go for back-to-back close combats, completely flipping this matchup and having even shields because Escavalier cannot get to 2 drill runs in time. So this is a beautiful situation why Berserker is very underrated in this meta. Close combat does land. No, not enough to take it out. So they're going to go for the second one here. And will the Escavalier let it go through? Yes, they do. All right, they take switch advantage. Final Pokemon is Tapu Fini, so that's going to be a good game as Registeel is going to lock that down. Pun intended. You guys see what I did there? We're going to go ahead and see probably some no shields. The last charge move really to worry about is going to be Shadow Sneak. Honestly, I mean, the Surfs do a decent amount, but they're going to counter swap now into Weezing, and this is where they need to shield the Shadow Sneak and look to try to farm down, because the Fairy Wind super effective damage might just be enough. No, it is not enough, but thankfully, all the energy is now gone from Giratina Altered, where Registeel can survive, lock on down, and go for 2 Zap Cannons to close this game out. So here's the first one. If this gets the attack debuff as well, it is absolutely over for the Tapu Fini. They decide to let it go through anyways. And yeah, this is looking to be a good game. I don't think they're going to make it to 2 Surfs in time. Unfortunately, that was still very close. They were almost there. Good game. All right, moving to the next one. We have Weezing versus Tapu Fini here on the lead. So let's see how they decide to play this out. They're going to actually counter swap into Berserker and draw out an Escavalier. Now, we saw how much damage close combat did before. It wasn't enough to KO, but this here is going to be forcing the first shield from Berserker, and hopefully they can get to 2 in time. Perfect. You see what I did? I'm full of them today. It's Berserker. It's a cat. Perfect, right? Yeah, it's very funny, guys. Oh, no! They didn't get the Shadow Claw down. That is so unfortunate. So they lose Switch and lose Shield advantage, but they have a little bit of loaded energy here as Play Rough now can hopefully start applying some pressure, but at least Escavalier is out of the game, where Registeel might have a bit better time sweeping this game. We'll have to see what that final Pokemon is, but it's going to be very close as Play Rough does land. They counter swap now into the Registeel, and out comes a Giratina Altered. So actually, this looks like an uphill battle, and honestly, going to be a very long fight right here as Registeel being extremely bulky and only doing resisted damage with Zap Cannon, and Giratina Altered not being able to put out enough damage with Shadow Claw and Shadow Sneak, as you guys can see. So this is going to be this is going to be a long one. I think it might be probably a 1 to 2 minute fight right here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see counter swaps on the 60-second switch timer, which is coming up pretty soon. Think about 15 more seconds here, roughly. Actually, it's sped up, so it's going to be way less than that. It's like 3 seconds now. But now, let's see if they decide to counter swap. Registeel doesn't have the health remaining to really close this game out. Let's see. They got to build up to Zap Cannon, hopefully to catch a charge move. I don't think there's a win condition here. Honestly, they have 2 shields. The Tapu Fini with 2 shields can win this game with Water Gun alone, and that's what the opponent knows, as they're going to counter swap here. And yeah, this is over, unfortunately. They have no real hard answer for Tapu Fini other than charge moves. And as you guys can see, Water Gun in this neutral situation is just going to outpace with the damage that it can do, and saving shields for Tapu Fini was a smart play by the opponent, as they can just Water Gun down this game. They're going to go ahead and go for the Surf here. And yeah, they're going to let it go. They know it's a good game. There's no win condition. They do decide to surrender. So that's going to be a good battle. All right, getting into the final battle here, we have Weezing versus Giratina Altered on the lead. So pretty positive lead matchup right here. But ultimately, it's going to be up to Giratina Altered to decide when to shield, right? Or when to swap out, because they can't take too much damage from the Fairy Wind and Play Rough as the Shadow Sneak does land. We actually see a swap out right away. So they wanted to do some chip damage and bail out, but this Tapu Fini here is gonna get deleted by Registeel if they aren't shielding, as Zap Cannon just does so much damage. Now, we saw Tapu Fini survive a Zap Cannon before, so that might be a play here for them. It's either going to be a full no shield or a full double shield, which is what we're seeing right there, shield number 1, and thankfully the Registeel did get the attack drop on Tapu Fini, so Water Guns and Surf won't be doing as much damage. Registeel still in a good position, no need to shield just yet, as they can get to Zap Cannon number 2 here, and this is where things are going to be decided in this game, is if they get 2 shields, which they do! We're looking at a potential Galarian Weezing and Berserker sweep with the hard-hitting charge moves. Now, Registeel decides to shield right here, stopping that damage, and we do see the Giratina Altered swap back in, as Galarian Weezing now, having access to Play Rough, is going to do a ton of super effective damage, but they're going to have to throw the next Play Rough here very soon, because the Shadow Sneak and Shadow Claw damage from Giratina Altered can add up, as they load up on a little bit of extra energy and now go for Play Rough here. Since there's no shields left in play, Giratina Altered is going to be going down, but we'll have to see what that final Pokemon is going to be. Let's see what decides to come in. It is going to be Registeel. No, it's not going to be able to get farm down in time, as Galarian Weezing here is going to get to the overheat, but don't get too excited, because that doesn't do enough damage to one-shot, as they do get lock on down, and this is going to be, oh man. This Registeel has loaded energy. It's going to be extremely close, as we see a counter swap into Tapu Fini, as the Berserker now is going to be coming in. They're going to be forced to no shield here. Remember that Registeel has energy, so they're going to let the Surf go through and look to go for the Play Rough. Hopefully this is going to do enough damage to take out Tapu Fini. If it doesn't, maybe they can Shadow Claw it down. Yeah, they should be able to Shadow Claw down right here. They'll have close combat for the Registeel, and this is looking to be a good game, as they can safely shield this next charge move, and thankfully Lock On is not going to be doing any damage to Berserker, and they can go for the close combat to finish off this game with a boom. So, this was a really fun team. Oh, the opponent decided to surrender right here. This is what happens if you're on the charge move. Yeah, boom! The opponent surrendered. Good game right there, but ultimately, this team looks really fun. I believe it's all XL Pokemon, but we have the Galarian Weezing, Registeel, and Berserker. Really solid team for the Fantasy Cup Ultra League Edition meta. So shout out to Ashifs for sharing these battles with us, and like always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.